It really started because I've got 3 children now, all in their teenage years, and I started worrying about them being safe when they came back from parties. And my eldest daughter's 19, my second is 17, my son's 14, and of course now they're all out and in London. And I just started worrying for their safety, so I started thinking, well, what self-defence perhaps they should look at, what sort of self-defence. So I was talking to people and somebody suggested Krav Maga. They suggested it because it seemed to be a very direct and no-nonsense form of self-defence. So I looked around on the internet and I found lots of Krav Maga demonstration videos, and I looked at those, and especially thinking about my daughter's safety, I looked at training for women in self-defence. And it looked great, and indeed Krav Maga seemed to be the right sort of martial art for them, and what I wanted them to do. But then it occurred to me that everybody in the training videos was always dressed in jogging trousers, t-shirt and trainers, which is fine, but that's not when women go out. They're often not dressed that way. And if you're going out to the opera or a restaurant or a party or dinner or whatever it is, when you come back from that or on your way there, you're often dressed, Saint Laurent, Gucci or Balenciaga or whatever it is. And I just wondered, well, how on earth do you defend yourself if you've got a pencil skirt on? So you can't do those sort of moves. So I thought that was something that needed, it's not a great message to be sending out, to be fair. That, okay, we'll teach you how to defend yourselves, and that's, you learn it this way, but once you're dressed, and not you're dressed in high fashion, then you can't defend yourselves anymore. Well, I wanted to approach it in the same way. I wanted to work with Carine and ask her to style it as if she was styling, the greatest fashion story this season, and to make it look, make the clothes. I didn't want them to look like combat clothes. I didn't want her to use lots of stuff that you look like you could fight in. I wanted it to be delicate. I wanted it to be refined and elegant, and I wanted her to use clothes that she would want to see in the pages of a magazine. So, I asked her just to do what she would do normally if she was working for French Vogue or V or whoever she was working for. We were looking for a model that would be right for this, and several people came to mind. But what I like about Lara is she has, partly she's got that slightly Helmut Newton-esque kind of Eyes of Laura Mars thing going on for her, and she looks ferocious. I mean, she looks, she's a great model, but a very powerful image of a woman. And I wanted somebody who looked that way, so I was looking for a very powerful looking model, and Lara certainly is that. I'm aware of that, I'm obviously very aware of that part of fashion photography, and those images from Newton and Wagenheim and Bourdain, deal with a sort of, a violence in our society, and each of those different photographers had different ways of displaying it, but it was the sexuality and the violence. It wasn't really from there I was coming, but those are images that I knew well, and I knew that there are images of powerful women in violent situations, but often those women are the victims of the situation, and I didn't want that to be portrayed. What I'm trying to do with this story is to, actually it's quite simple, is to show 10 moves or 10 ways of getting yourself out of some fairly typical problems. So if a man grabs you around the throat and you're wearing a jacket where you can't lift your arms up particularly, how do you deal with that? So I wanted to do a series of very instructional short videos which show you the moves you can do. A lot of it, and I'm sure that this will come through in what John says, but a lot of it is to do with women's attitude as soon as the attack starts. A lot of it is to do with the fact that they automatically assume the role of the victim, and therefore the attacker automatically feels that they've won. So, a lot of it is the psychology of how you are in any case, and the confidence, with which you present yourself in that situation. So, a lot of what we were doing was really just trying to break that mould and start to get women to think in a slightly different way. I do think there's something important going on at the moment. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the movement Slut Walk, which came from Canada. Basically, it's the idea that, of course, women should be able to wear whatever they want in the street, and if they've got a short skirt on or a low-cut top, they shouldn't be sending out saying that they're inviting unwanted sexual attention. So, and there was a case in Canada where somebody, I can't remember sadly whether it was a judge or a policeman or somebody, made some comment to the effect that, well, she was asking for it because she had a short skirt on, that sort of thing. Which is awful, and there's been big demonstrations about that. So, it's part of that general mood of, I think, women should absolutely have the freedom to wear whatever they want, whether it's, they should be able to dress in whatever way they choose, and they should not be in fear of that. In the end, if this story stops one woman being raped, then it'll be incredibly worth it. So I think there's a real point of doing these stories, and it goes back to my whole feeling that fashion has a political side to it, and it should be expressed. Well, certainly what's going to be seen on Show Studio will be a series of short and very instructional videos. I actually like the idea that these are sort of step-by-step how-to videos. So it's a very, if you want, a very analytical and very, just a very straightforward approach to how to defend yourself. And I think it's important not to blur that by being, overly manipulative with the imagery. So the imagery is actually quite straightforward.